Good morning and welcome to another videocast from Hendy Consulting, the specialist management consulting firm to the $125 billion FPD display market. And now we're beginning to approach Display Week, so I'm looking forward to my virtual talk at the business conference where I'm going to do my analysis of the top 6 display players in the industry. So I hope people who are there and attending that will find that enjoyable. So today I want to do a counterintuitive thought on the role of MicroLED die size in strategic transitions, and in particular on sawtooth demand behaviour, which I don't think is so well understood, and I want to highlight it a little bit because I think operationally it's actually one of the more challenging issues that micro-LED wafer suppliers are going to face. So what is well clear, and Erica Yole in particular has done an amazing job of making it very clear how consumer price points can really only be reached for micro-LED at certain die sizes. So for television, if you really want to get to a reasonable consumer price point, then long term you need to get down sub 10 by 10. That's just based on doing an analysis of the cost structure backwards and proving how much the portion of the emitters has to be. But perhaps is not quite so clear is actually the role of the cost driver the die size is, even if you took a fixed wafer price. So for example, I'm pulling on data from Omdia here. Back in 2020, the die size used in the Samsung The Wall was 125 by 225 microns, so that's 28,000 square microns. And actually by 2 years later, the 34 by 85 being used is actually almost 10x lower already. And then if you say that has the potential to fall further to say 10 by 10 over some sort of time horizon, then you've actually got a 280x change in the cost driver of the cost of the micro LED content. So if you assume fixed wafer pricing, and that's actually those are falling also, then actually you've got a massive reduction in one of the biggest cost drivers for the cost of the micro LED TV. And this is why I hold my opinion that prices will be lower and adoption will be better. And really it comes down to the critical thing about whether Samsung Electronics brings their pricing down in line with their drop in cost. So this could be the cost profile broadly, right? I mean, it comes down with the area of the die. But then whether SEC follows in terms of price, that becomes critical. And the one that I think is less clear is the sawtooth shape of demand. So any sort of, you can do a forecast of displays for micro-LED and then translate those back to wafers. And what tends to happen is TV ends up being by far the largest application, no matter how you look at it in terms of wafer starts. So this is wafer starts per week, 6-inch equivalent, and it was one particular forecast. But the important point I wanted to draw to here was that drop between 25 and 26. Now, what causes that? Well, that's not a drop in demand, that's actually a drop in die size. And so if you can imagine if you're a wafer maker, you basically have to plan capacity looking forward, knowing when transitions are likely to happen between die sizes. And that actually becomes almost the most important strategic lever in planning how much capacity you need. But this impacts everybody from all the tool suppliers, planning into the industry or planning into the wafer suppliers. The die size transitions become absolutely critical even within a marketplace. So it's something that strategically we all need to watch a lot. The next point I wanted to make is I think that my belief is, from what it sounds like based on the public data, Apple is looking at vertical chip. I mean, as soon as you see, and it's been in the public domain, either Eric's comments on 8 by 8 or the Omdia public domain stuff here on 10 by 10, that's a vertical chip as shown to the right diagram there, right, where you've got one contact pad on the bottom and one on the top. And it does have distinct implications for the architecture of the display because you need a top contact now. You need a planarizing layer and a top contact, which means once you put the micro LEDs in place, you can't repair them so easily afterwards. Or the flip chip, which is what most of the industry's been using so far, but those then tend to be rectangular because they've got 2 pads on the bottom, right? So you tend to end up with these rectangular dies. And so I think even by just the suggestion here from Omdia that it's 10 by 10, leads me to believe that that's what it is. And we'll find out for sure in 2 years' time. But I have this feeling that smaller vertical chips will come faster than we think. And there are real implications from that. So then, I think it's broadly understood that the markets for micro-LED are watch, TV signage, automotive, and microdisplays for heads-up AR, VR. I think the impact of actual die size on product cost is really well understood. But I don't think the forward-looking dynamic change in cost with die size is so well into, and definitely I don't think it's well understood the sawtooth behaviour of wafer demand, and all of the equipment supply that supports wafers will be heavily impacted by the forward-looking predictability of die size transitions, and I think that is extremely less clear. And I think what we may also see is smaller dies faster than we would think, and I have this feeling that maybe we see vertical dies faster than we think. So that was my little piece for this Monday morning. I did want to make a little bit of a call to action for my own business. I mean, certainly if you're looking at a business problem and it comes down to how big is the market for a certain thing, what is the pricing for, say, 55-inch LCD TV, what are the trends in foldable displays, and what factories are being built, that's the domain of market research. And there are 3 amazing market research providers to the display industry, Omdia, DSCC, and the MicroLED output from Yole. But then Hendy Consulting is a management consulting provider, and we tend to be involved in decision support. And so then we're asking different level questions. So we're asking the questions, is my technology any good? What do I need, what are the strengths and weaknesses, and how can I improve the value proposition? How do I set up a joint development agreement with the display industry that fairly shares value between the 2 different parts? Should I build a factory for this, and how do I mitigate the economic risks and the timing risks inherent in doing that? And how can I position my business for success in the display market? So I hope you want to try and understand here the difference between the 2 and why you might choose to come to someone like us to work on your business problem. And certainly if any of this was ever interesting, please drop me a message through LinkedIn and we can talk a little bit more. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.